Hello again, Livy here. Back for round 2 of Tarot to the Extreme, a VR to Marlene Teresa. I think for round 2, I have some very interesting choices that, well, especially like the last two, I'm not sure people are going to agree with so much, but that's okay. This is my video. um, This one was a little harder to fetch decks for, I'm not gonna lie, but I think I figured out what to do. Deck number, or category number 1 for round 2 of this tag is modern versus vintage. And I decided to pick these because, to be honest, here's the thing of me. My tarot style is not really modern. I don't have a lot of, or any really, collage decks, and the ones I'm attracted to at the moment, are more vintage. They're not more modern looking. So this deck, I think, is my most modern because it's very, you could have argued this could have been a cute deck too. Probably my cutest deck. It's really tiny. But this feels modern. This is like a modern art style. You know, it's digitally done. You can tell, right? To me, this is my most modern deck. As most modern as I go. It's a really cute deck. This is the Moonlight. Oops, sorry. I was trying to see if the name. Right here. This is the Moonlight Crystal. You can find this on Etsy. I'll link it down below. It's a cute deck also. But this is probably my most modern, and I don't use this deck often to read with. I'll be honest, this is the one deck that I feel is really like more collectible because I love the art style. Like, this is my jam. But it's modern and it's new. It's not really, it's not vintage like this one is. This deck. I love this deck. This is the Coastal Curiosities Oracle. This is the second edition that I backed on Kickstarter. This deck is as vintage gets. It's on this beautiful linen cardstock. That is a dream to shuffle. I'll show you. I overhand, so. This deck is very vintage. It's the name of it. The game, right? It's the way it's imaged together, the things that are on it, the style it's in. This is my most vintage tarot deck. Or not tarot, this is Oracle. Whoops, sorry. Reversing there. This is my most vintage deck in general. Oracle versus modern. I think you can tell, right? This is definitely as extreme as it gets. But I like it. So, this one was the easiest to figure out. Modern versus vintage. As I put these cards away, the next category for this round is new moon versus full moon. And for this one, I had to think about it a little more. I don't know if I really have decks that feel like they're one way or the other, but I think I got it. This I had in my last video, but I'm bringing it back. Anima Mundi Tarot versus Tarot of the Divine. Now, it's pretty obvious to see, right? This deck is all about the waning light of the moon. This deck is bright and full and has the full moon in it. Even though you could argue, well, it has the little, look, moon signs down there. This definitely feels like a more full moon deck to me. And I'll show you. Getting this out once again. Okay, wow, right onto the the Three of Swords here, and then I'll get out Tarot of the Divine so we can just look at them together. Yes. Okay, something about this deck just feels lighter this one, which is why it gives me more full moon vibes. Full moon is not as scary to me, even though like it's a wilder energy, and it's not as scary to me as new moon, because new moon, of course, is the absence of the light. This has a lot of light in it. This has a lot of beauty, even the things that take place in the day. Even this looks like it could be in the light of a full moon, versus this looks like it's like the sun is setting and it's going to be a new moon night. Even though this has the half, again, it's still lighter for some reason. I don't know. It's just a cheerier energy in this deck versus this one. So for that reason, this is my new moon. This is my full moon. And they're just both, I mean, they're both beautiful. It's just, that's the category name. New moon versus full. And yeah. Next up though. Wow, I'm flying through this video. Well, I mean, that's kind of for the best, right? My phone, I've talked about it before. My phone hates me if I try to record things that are too long. It revolts. It starts acting up. It doesn't let me upload it. So, I learned that lesson. Okay. Next category is cute versus creepy. And to be honest, I could have picked a few different options here. For instance, the easy jab would have been to say that the Nicoletta Ciccoli Mini is the creepiest deck I own. And in some ways you could say, yes, you're 100% right. But I wanted to highlight a different deck for creepy. And cute, I decided, I mean, the other deck I shown, I could have said this is the cutest deck I own. But I wanted, again, a different choice. So, cutest deck to me is my Mini Cat Tarot, which was, again, also my last video. And the Teeny Tiny Tarot is my creepy deck. So, I'll start with the Mini. This was also my underrated deck in the last round. But I do think this is the cutest little deck. And I do think if you love cats, I mean, look at it. Even the little kitty, like, hiding in there. This is the cutest, the cutest deck if you love cats. Like, why don't you own this deck? Look at it. The happiest, cutest cat on top of this. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a dog, which is really funny. Like, every time there's like a dog in this deck or some kind of animal, see, they're just like, they're the right animals for cats. And you know what? That's so true, because they are always like that. But this deck is definitely my most adorable deck. Look at it. This cat comforting and trying to restrain this dog. It's just... I'm sorry. This is so cute. I just wish more people had this one so we can gush about it together. But this is like my cutest deck for sure. Every time I see it, it's also a very happy deck for me. Every time I see it, I get so happy. And I'm like, yes, yes. Love it. Whereas this deck is quirky, could be considered creepy. I don't think it's as creepy as a Nicoletta Ciccoli for some, but it has some creepy elements to it. So I'll show this one off. It's bridge size, kind of thicker cardstock. I think this deck actually, in truth, this skirts the line of being cute and creepy, but it's got some creepy elements. So let me see if I can find them. Like this. Stitches. The needles. People get creeped out by needles a lot. Not me, but some people do. Well, it depends on how they're presented. See? Stitched into something. Those are supposed to look like eyelids. Like, can be creepy. These eyeballs, you're like, what in the world is happening here? How is this the 10 of... It's supposed to be like the 10 of eyes is like the 10 of pentacles. Creepy demons coming out, you know, like... For this reason. Even this cat, like, just killed a mouse. It's like, what in the world is happening? This dude has an eye on his head. Skeletons coming out of the ground. You know, this is probably one of the more creepier decks I own. This bat, I love bats, but this one is a creepy one. Like, look at its glowing eyes and yucky, right? Like, ew, why are there like 10 needles sticking out of this person? You know, I don't know. I just really like this deck anyways, but it is definitely one of the more creepy decks I have. Oh yeah, and the cups are skulls. These are actually like the most tame. The eyeballs, I think, are kind of more scary. Yeah. Definitely, though, comparatively cutie, kind of cute but creepy. You know, they make sense to me. I love this deck too, though. If you don't own already the Teeny Tiny Tarot, why not? Give it a chance. But it is a little bit creepy. This would not be a deck for everybody. Especially because the strength card, I didn't show it, but the strength card has snakes, so be aware. This has some more like elements that people do not like. It doesn't have spiders though, so that's good. But yeah, has some elements in it that creep people out. Next category, I didn't understand this one too much. I had to think about it. I was like, oh wait. So 4 on this round is on my table versus in my bag. And I guess it's more of like, what decks would you take with you more in a bag? Like just throw it in and go versus a deck that you just have on your table because you worry about how well it travels. And so for this is more of an on my table deck versus an in my bag deck, which I actually have to be careful about because I accidentally dropped this deck recently. And look at this tuck box is not the greatest, but this deck is so tiny. I'll start with talking about on my table. This is, I'm so excited. I'm glad I have this deck now. This is the mini Oak, Ash, and Thorn. I don't know how many people got their copies of this yet for those who ordered the mini. But for a mini, this is a great size. I just want to show off this deck more, even though I did an unboxing video of this. This deck is on my table, though, more than in my bag, because this tuck box, to be honest, it's not very sturdy. I get afraid for it. I feel like it's fragile in many ways, so I keep it more on my table. For me, this is my desk. This deck is so beautiful and stunning. It's, there's something about it. I could live inside this world too. I could have put this for living in the tarot, but it's just a beautiful place. Beautiful world. Beautiful deck. But yeah, because I want to preserve it and keep it safe, I keep this more on my table than I would take it with me on the go. Whereas this Monsoon Tarot, I've definitely just thrown it. Oh, see, it's even getting jacked up right there. Like, I have thrown this deck into the bag. This is one of my smallest decks. I have small hands. I should preface by that. I have small hands. This deck is very tiny. This deck is also one of my, not the box, but these two are like the most tiniest decks I own. I could literally get out a ruler and show you, but I won't. I'm too lazy for that. This deck, though, is my in my bag deck because I could take this deck literally anywhere. It is so tiny. See, this is the mini. That's not very mini. This is mini. Look at it. Yeah. Wait, is this how I showed this deck last time? Sorry. Give me a second as this is linen cardstock too. Really good. Really easy to shuffle. This could have been my easiest shuffle too for my, that other category, but I like shuffling the Edmund Duloc more. Wow, I still ended up with this on top. I still ended up in the same order. I don't know how that happened. Okay, but anyways, this is my in my bag deck because I can literally throw this deck and go because it's just so easy to take literally anywhere. So easy. So good. Beautiful artwork. This also could have been a maximalist deck for me, but you know, it is definitely my on-the-go bag deck. And I think they're both very interesting and very different in what I consider being able to take everywhere with me versus I need to be more delicate with. but both are stunning. I'm sorry, I have a thing for beautiful art. I love beautiful art. I will definitely take more decks that are just beautiful. It's the way I go. But also just because they speak to me, I guess. But anyways, most on my table versus in my bag. The next category was actually hard for me to decide on. I didn't know how I wanted to go about it. Like, what do you mean realistic? I guess that would be if you had a deck that was more modern, like maybe like the Modern Witch Tarot or the Grunge Tarot, or what's that other one? Good Karma? Is that what that's called? Good Karma deck? Like if you had a deck like that, that's what I'm getting the vibes of most realistic looking decks versus fanciful. I don't really have very modern realistic decks because that's not my tarot aesthetic. So I decided to do an interesting comparison for this one, realistic versus fanciful. I chose 2 oracles. This is very fanciful, so you could have said, well, this is more fanciful than this one. But I think this one's more fanciful, this one's more realistic, and I'm going to show you why. How to be a wildflower deck, very beautiful. It is very fancy. So you could say, yes, this is a fancy deck. But the reason why I put this as the most realistic, besides like all the names, I'm not going to go into like all these, right? But the reason why I decided that this was my most realistic is because of the way the images are depicted. They're very beautiful. Well, except I guess this horse here. They're very beautiful, but as you can tell, it's very realistic. They're not drawn in a way that's like trying to be different, you know. This is a rabbit. This, I guess, is a shooting star, you know. This is a a leaf. And it's very realistically done. And the bee. You know, there's nothing about this. It is fancy decor, but it still looks like what it is. A flower is a flower. An apple is an apple. So to me, this feels like my most realistic deck versus the Seed and Sickle, which is also a nature deck. But this feels more fanciful to me, and I'm going to show you why. If I had to compare these, right? Name of the game, compare them. Oof, my setup here is not the greatest. This one feels more fanciful to me. I mean, get your fancy flowers ready. See? Fanciful, yes. But this is very much so. Look at this. From the edging, from the font, from the way that this even looks. This feels more fancy to me. This feels like someone trying to be very upscale. You could say this is very realistic too. But when you look at the background images, see there's like details in the back. The way the font is. The way it's colored. The way it's presented. Like this is some like... You know what I mean? This is very fancy, in my opinion, compared to this one. This one's cute and realistic and does have fanciness, but this is more fancy to me. Like, very much more fancy to me. I don't know, you know. This is like cute, realistic plant energy. This is more fancy, crazy. Look at this blackthorn even. Like, that's wild. So to me, this deck is most fanciful, most realistic. And... oh, we've already come to the last one. This next category was hard for me. I don't know. What do you consider a quiet versus a loud deck? I guess I didn't understand the assignment on that one. I was a little confused. I didn't know what to pick. So I decided to go into a way that goes into my aesthetic, my tarot aesthetic, and the things that I like. So I decided to go, again, this is a very weird route for quiet versus loud. I could have picked some other decks maybe. I decided to go Fantasy Edition. Which one feels more quieter versus loud? So my quiet fantasy deck is the Lord of the Rings Tarot. And my loud fantasy deck is the Wonderworld Tarot. This was in my other video too. This is my worst shovel, hands down. It is my worst shuffle. But let's start with the Lord of the Rings. Why this feels quiet to me, despite its packaging, despite its, imagery, is that this deck is very rooted in comfort. So that feels quieter to me than the energy and chaos that goes on in the Wonderworld. This also feels more quiet because, as you can see, this is a Pip style deck. This is an Inside Editions deck. So this deck is more Pippy. It's fantasy. It has a lot of design elements. So you would think maybe, maybe for others, maybe this deck feels loud for others. But this is a very quiet, comforting fantasy. Like, look at Gandalf. There's just something that lets you take a deep breath. Relax a little bit. Be hopeful. This is so funny. It just feels quieter to me. Even this cheery Gimli, like chopping his axe into an orc, it's just not as loud or confronting or anything like that to me in the fantasy realm. This is a quieter deck for me. Whereas the Wonderworld Tarot, let's be honest here, okay? This deck is based on Alice in Wonderland. So everything about this kind of fantasy world is so much more vibrant and bright in colors. It's chaotic. You got some weird moments happening in here. Like, look at this. Oh, this is one of my favorite Wheel of Fortunes ever right now. This is an oh no. This is loud. This is an yep, you can tell everything. What must come up must come down, like the wheels are turning. This is very loud in comparison to me, also because of the bright colors. And actually, fun fact, if you've been meaning to get this deck, because last time I mentioned this deck, besides the worst shuffle, this deck had been, I hadn't seen anywhere where you can buy it again. But Push Kitty just released a mini version of this deck. I don't know what that's going to be like. Maybe the cardstock's fixed. I don't know. But you can now get this deck in a mini. Just wanted to mention that. But yeah, this is my more loud fantasy deck. So let's compare them, right? This is total chaos versus this, which is much quieter. Two decks in the same genre. They're fantasy, they're literary, and they go over different things. But this one is quiet to me. This one is loud to me. And I love both. What does that say about me? I don't know. I love, actually, that she's the Queen of Wands. Not gonna lie, Arwen. Versus this freaking grumpy Mad Hatter. This is what I mean. Like, this deck is so loud and just, like, in your face. And kind of Rider-Waite-Smith Cologne-like. But this deck is just more quiet and reserved. It doesn't tell you as much about what it is. And yeah. Anyways. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm going to stop it here. But I hope you enjoyed seeing my tarot extremes. Again, I don't have the biggest collection in the world compared to some, so that's why some of the decks, are also reused. But I like it that way. I like the decks I have. I work with the decks I have, so it satisfies me. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all again next time. Bye!